Cloud. Okay, cool. Well, we'll get started. Welcome back to Wedding BFF. Today, I am super excited to have Brandon Brown of Roost Photography here with me to talk all things photography trends and how to get the most out of your wedding day and the importance of capturing actual moments and love versus products, which he's going to explain because it kind of blows my mind and I love it. But anyways, to give you a little bit of background on Brandon, he this is what he submitted. So he's been in this business for 12 years. One funny thing too is he just went full force with his business and took it full time right away, which I think I just love that. I know I took the leap before I was actually ready,
Yep.
and I'm a big fan of people doing that versus, let's be real, like wasting life not doing something you really love. He says he loves working with couples and being part of one of the best days of their lives. Photographing love is, again, different than photographing a product. Love only exists in the container of relationships, and he enjoys finding ways to capture the invisible connection for couples. So, welcome, Brandon. Tell us more, even just about that, because I think that
Yeah.
says a lot about your work.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about like I photograph a lot of different things. Like I photograph buildings. Sometimes you photograph a mountain. Like there's these the thing you're photographing in those cases. Like you're actually photographing like the physical properties of that thing at that moment, right? When you
Hmm.
think about like love is very different than photographing like a car or a cup of coffee or a can of pop or soda or whatever you call it, right? Like beer. Those are all things you can photograph, but what you're photographing is like the object.
Hmm.
Whereas when you're trying to photograph love, you could photograph the bride, you could photograph the groom, but that's not. There's a sum of the parts. Some of the total is more than the sum of the parts, right? So you have like this like
Hmm.
additional thing that's invisible. You can't see it. You can only photograph around it. So I've kind of become obsessed with like how do we figure out how to do this in a way? Because like if I just try to like come at it with my own poses like right out of the gate, then I'm gonna photograph every couple the same, and some of them will look good in different poses, and I can do that. But I'd really rather start with like what are you into, what do you like, what's gonna bring out your you energy together as a couple, so that we can kind of get that, so that when you look at the photo on the wall, that invisible love that only exists as an event that happens in space and time when two people come together, that love is evident in some sort of real snapshot kind of way.
Yes, I love that. That's wonderful. Nice and deep and passionate, which is like exactly why we get along so well. So tell me a little bit. So I've had couples who have, oftentimes I see inspo for engagement shoots,
Yeah.
it's stuff they're seeing on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever. That's where we consume stuff now, especially when it comes to anything visual. Do you prefer a couple comes in with that, or do you prefer they say, okay, this is where we had our first date, do your thing?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. So like
Yeah.
whatever the couple needs to communicate with me to like a lot of times couples come in with inspo because they don't know how to describe what they want, but they know it
Mm.
when they see it. I do think that's I'll come back to this in a second, but I do think that sometimes like that inspo, you have to be careful because couples can inspo sabotage themselves in a couple different ways.
Mm.
But what the reason they're bringing you inspo is because they're nervous about having photos taken and they're looking for something that makes them feel comfortable. So I always whatever's gonna make them feel comfortable, I like. And a lot of times I'll ask like, is this tell me what you like about this pose. What I'm trying to get to is they're showing me something that is almost like a product photo, even though it's a couple, right?
Mm.
Sometimes it's not even a real couple; it's like a model, which is even more like like it's
Even
like
worse.
a manufactured thing. I need to understand like what is it about that photo that draws you in, because that's the part I actually want to know. I want to understand like why did you like that photo? Is it just because it was pretty and well lit? Why did you send me a bunch of photos? This is the other part though. Why did you send me a bunch of photos of people that are a different body type than you in an environment in a different kind of venue than you're getting married in with like a different outfit than you and be like, this is what we love. I'm like, okay, well you didn't make those choices, so I don't have like a magic button on my camera that like is like
Mhm.
Pinterest style board only photos, right? I have to like figure out, you sent me a bunch of elopement photos in a mountain environment with a bride wearing like this really different dress than you chose, and who happens to also be a foot taller than you with, a bionic body. But sure, we can get started on what that might look like for you.
Hmm. Yeah, that I feel like decoding that. I was just on a call with an artist, an illustrator yesterday, and I was joking with the couple. I was like, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Everything that you say is going to actually make sense to her. Whereas me, I'm like, you know, that meme where it's like all the equations above your head. I'm like, I don't know, but she gets it. It's like how you get it. That's your superpower is understanding that and deciphering the art from like being given bits. I feel like bits and pieces often.
Right.
So okay, got it. So a little bit of both. Do you prefer, what about those couples who are just, and we both had them, so chill, where they just show up and they're like, let's just do Atwater Beach. Like, do
Yeah,
you
I think
love that too?
as long totally as long as that's what they really are. I think sometimes like I think there's like you have to kind of like this is normal for people, right? People have this like here's how I'm supposed to be. So
Hmm.
depending on how much personal work the people have done, a lot of times with photos in particular, you're getting like they have this pressure to deliver not the photos they want on their wall, but the photos they think their mother-in-law is gonna like or their friends are gonna think are cool. It's like what they're sending you is sort of like one part of who they are. And like I want to get those because I do want them to have photos that they want to share with their friends that they are proud to post to Facebook or Instagram or wherever they're going to put them out in the world. But also like can we go even deeper and figure out like what can I give you that like you're almost going to like it so much that you only want to share it with your spouse. Like you only want that to be your
Oh.
private thing together. That
Hmm.
you're not thinking about like how can I maximize this in my little friend circle to get the most likes, right? You're it's kind of bigger than that. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put that down because I think those social interactions are really part of the
Mm,
fabric, social fabric of how we do relationships now. But
mhm. Yeah. I mean,
um,
some of my favorite, you know, Lottie Lillian, she was
yeah,
my wedding photographer. She always says her
she's
favorites
fantastic.
are like the in-betweens.
Yep,
And I think that you two really understand that versus like, if you want to do posed, I believe it would be called more like editorial. Like that's fine, but
yeah,
people are really living in the here and now, and we'll get to the influencer world and that kind of fun
right.
stuff soon.
Well, it is actually interesting too with like so like a lot of what you see on Pinterest, right? Couples are sending you stuff. They're not actual couples. They're like models or
Yeah,
like
style
celebrities, which is
shifts.
like right next door to models, right? They're sending you like these really like $400,000 weddings or like fake weddings where she's wearing a $50,000 dress that whatever. Like that's cool. Again, you're not going to make those choices, but I do think that there's like a part of that where uh, I don't know, like it when we get into real people and how real people move in the world, unless you're a model, you're not going to be able to do some of those poses. They're not going to work for you. Like there's a pose where the bride puts her arm up around the groom's head like this. It works for like 1% of the population
1%.
because most people, like normal people, don't like what their arm looks like when it's front and center and like it's like bigger than it just doesn't work. So, but why do they do it? Because they saw some 6 foot model that is 100 pounds could do that to another could put her arm up around the chin of another model.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I do what I call flow posing. This may be too much detail, but
No, I love this. This is
I
great.
flow posing for me means like I want to keep the couple moving and I'd rather have them doing actions. It actually like it shaped my photography more than I expected because I realized at some point when I was trying to create video content that I was shooting so many burst photos of these flow poses that I actually could stitch them together like a little video. Um, but so flow posing for me is I'll give a couple like a prompt, like I want them to like twirl the one of the partners to twirl the other one, and then
Yeah.
I'll photograph the whole sequence of it. I know what the photo is I want, but I'll just kind of photograph all of it. And for me, then you have a couple moving and like kind of interacting, so they're focused a little bit less on the camera, a little bit more on each other. Again, I'm trying to capture that energy between them, right? So like
Mhm.
I just have a bunch of different prompts that I'll use for that, and then I can, if we're not, there's other things where I'll put them in a stationary pose just to kind of get them doing something. But usually the thing I'm looking for is more action, energy.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And if you guys will, I'll give you Brandon's handle after this too, and it's in the show notes. But you have to look at the reels he's created from like what is the average amount of photos in those
I
reels?
don't want
It's
to talk
like
about it.
a you know it is cool. It's
I
you're
went
the
I
I
went from
told you.
shooting I went from shooting 4 to 6,000 photos for an 8 hour wedding to shooting 8 to 10,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it
Yeah. But it's like cool
initially,
because the movement is
yeah,
there.
initially I wasn't like initially it was an accident. Like initially when I would get home
Like
and realize,
everything in business.
yeah, I realized I could do this because I had these photos. But then once my mind clicked around what I was doing, then it just became like, oh, this would be a good burst photo too. Oh, this would be. And so it's like, yeah,
I love it. That's
it's
amazing.
it's a problem.
So you said one of the things too, like let's talk about booking vendors and everything
Yeah,
like that. You said there's certain things that they should be looking out for. I have my laundry list of those things. But you said something about galleries and those being easily accessible, but what else should be they be looking for? I'm going to insert one thought
Yeah.
into this, but what else should we be looking for outside of like the vibe and the energy? I just can't with a photography, with a videography, with a planner, content creator too, I guess, the energy and the relationship and that interfacing is more
Yep.
important than anything because it builds that trust, in my opinion. What else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really true. I think what you said, I think a lot of couples haven't. I've had one of the feedbacks I got from more than one couple is like, of all our vendors, you really like saved our day. You were there for us. And like, I think at some point as a wedding, what you're looking for in a wedding vendor has to go beyond, oh, that's the photographer. You're trying to create a
Yeah.
team. So you really need
Yep.
them to be sort of all in on. So like, I have a sewing kit in my wedding bag. It
Yeah.
has wipes in it for like clothing wipes. It has needle everything that giant
Yeah.
safety pins. And so like at dresses, at weddings, sorry, like why am I the one creating a bustle out of 10 safety pins for a bride that forgot to have her dress have a bustle and wants to do it first dance? Because I'm the one that's there,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And am I the right person to do it? Probably not. But like I've done it enough times now that I can do that. If you have a groom that rips their pants uh, from
Breaking it
knee to
down.
butt and needs it sewed up before the ceremony, I in that particular instance I stapled it, not sewed it, but I can make that work.
Oh my
But
God.
it's because weddings are like that. They're chaotic. They're life. Things happen, and you need a vendor team that's like not just like focused so much on like, is the flowers exactly right, but are focused on like, how is the bride and groom doing? Are the bride and bride, or the groom and groom? How is everyone doing? And how do we make sure they continue to flow and kind of move forward? And so I think your vendor team are the people you're paying to make sure your day goes well, and you just want them to be all in on that. That yes, they're going to deliver their individual contribution in a great way. Great photos, great video, whatever it is, but also they want you to have a great day, and they're gonna do whatever it takes for you to have a great day.
Yeah. And you need to like, and you can tell in a
Yep.
consultation, in my opinion, if they're all in or partially in, or you're one of I don't know,
Yep.
50, 60, 70 weddings and you feel like a number. If you feel like a number right away, you're going to feel like a number the whole time.
Yep.
There are some companies like that. But what about pricing? So in terms of like, most packages are going to start at that 8 hour
Yep.
mark. I find a lot of couples are doing 9 to 10.
Yep.
That's common, especially if we're starting with a 1 o'clock church
Yep.
service, right? But what if someone says, I can spend, my budget is $6,000 and your 8 hour option starts at $6,000? Like, should they be talking to you?
Yeah.
Because I
So
was
that's a
thinking,
great question. Like, how aspirational should they be? I think it's
yeah,
all if you're within, let's say, if you're within 25% of that price, right?
yeah,
It's worth having a conversation, and
yeah.
just to even lay it out and be like, you know, this is what is what I think is true too. Like my favorite clients are the ones that come to me and they're not saying like I want a wedding photographer. They're saying we want you to photograph our wedding. It's really different. And with those clients, if you say to them like, hey, I just can't do it for your budget. Uh, let's talk about how we can make it work. Usually it's just kind of weird because in a wedding, like if you're whatever your wedding budget is, there is flexibility. So like
There's
I'm
always
not trying to
flexibility.
extract your firstborn from you, but I do think that there's a sense in which, uh, you know, I've been at weddings where people begged me for a discount, and I maybe gave them one, and then you show up at the wedding, and it's like they've done all these extra things. Like, why was I the one that was supposed to give you a discount when you've got like all this? You clearly didn't have a discount wedding, and I know you didn't push other vendors for it. So why did you push me? Well, I think you pushed me because you think that I'm nice and I'm a team player, and I sort of got
And you
burned in
are,
this
but
because right, I sort of got burned in this because I bent a little for you, and instead of it making your wedding cheaper, it meant that you diverted that money towards another part of it. So
towards place cards that were,
yeah,
thrown away. Yeah,
so
that's
I feel like it's for me like again I'm gonna work with couples if I can and however that looks, but also like if it's worth a conversation, but I don't think you actually want your photographer to come down too much to meet your
no,
space. You need
that's
to
the
get
other side.
splurge.
If it's too good to be true, what they're
Yep.
trying to give you as a discount, it probably is.
Yep.
And yeah, that's like an interesting thing. You look at these big publications, the Knot, I don't know if Martha Stewart does it as much, but the Knot, Zola, Wet, all of that stuff. they're saying how much to spend on these things, and I
Right.
just did another podcast talking about how it's all bullshit because
It's
it
total
because
bullshit.
it is. It's wrong. Maybe Madison and Milwaukee, that top part of that budget that they're listing is where it's going to start for good
Right.
wedding photography and most creative services. And then for the people you and I both serve in Chicago, that's just completely wrong, you
Right.
know? So I
Right.
think that I just wanted to make that point too of like how people should not
Right.
be relying on that. They should be relying on regional publications. Marriott in Milwaukee does a great piece on that. They actually
Mhm.
featured my wedding, and it's like, no, this is actually what it costs.
Right.
And I was my
The
own planner.
real price breakdowns. Yeah.
Yes, it's just
There's this myth that wedding photography, you should budget $3,000 for wedding photography, but that's the same number that was being thrown out in 2005.
right. I mean, my
Like,
couples are spending six, kind of starting right now.
yeah,
Like that's where it's at. And obviously that's changed since the inception of Celebrate by Kate. Just
right.
like you said, it's just changed and the economy's changing. Look at your grocery bill. Like, of
Yeah.
course things are gonna cost more. So
I think if
before
you
we
were
get
looking for like a number, I think that is you five is to me this what I would say in Milwaukee at least the median number of like you're not in luxury photography, you're not in discount photography. Five is the number
right,
that's probably going to get you where you're at. Like I said, if you think of five as like 25% within 25% of your budget, that gets you all the way to six if that's what the person's asking for. But I think you need some flexibility with it. And ultimately, when I go to get a haircut, I don't say to my barber, "Here's my budget."
exactly. I know why are wedding vendors treated
Right.
differently. That's a conversation for another time too.
Just
So
to name drop one thing though, there is a photographer in Milwaukee that made became famous because they booked hundreds of weddings and then didn't deliver their galleries. And they did it by being the absolute cheapest and spending most of their money on marketing. And they didn't even shoot the weddings themselves. They have all these other vendors shooting the window. They like hired people to shoot the weddings, so the photographers would go and shoot the weddings. A year later, the client would be reaching out to the photographer that was just an employee and being like, "Hey, we never got our photos."
they're
And
like, I have nothing.
so in the several cases, I know that the photographers actually like turned over their like files to that client because the company hadn't delivered. And I mean, I didn't get weddings because people booked that company. They booked that company because it was half the price of me. But you get what you pay for. They were trying to uh,
Undercut.
do it on a discount, and they just but you have to be pretty
Yeah.
special to handle 100 weddings a year.
Oof. Yeah, that yeah, that's different, and it's different from photography versus like what I do
Yeah,
too, in terms of like how teams work in that creativity. And that actually like was one of the other questions I was going to ask you. What about these companies like this who are like, okay, you sign with us, we have a great roster, you'll meet your photographer eventually.
yeah. I
I
get
have never had a super good experience with that on my side of the equation.
I think when you have that happen, the experience that you're having is 100% because of they happen to get a good associate shooter. And
Yeah.
I think in some cases it's not luck. I think sometimes companies are built around that and they have it kind of built in. I have an associate shooter that I shoot that goes out and shoots for me somewhere
Yeah.
between maybe 2 and 3 times a year. But it's always because someone's had their heart set on working with my company, and like when I tell them I'm booked, they don't go away. So I'm like, well, look, I do have an option
Right.
that we could use. But like I said, for me, it's like it's not part of my main business strategy. It's like 2 or 3 times a year because it's the right couple for it to work with. And my
Hmm.
second shooter is great. Like he can totally do that. But it's
Yeah.
always if he wasn't available, I would just say, look, I can't do it. I wouldn't go find someone else that I hadn't worked with. The reason he works is we've shot hundreds of like 100 weddings together. He knows all my shots. He knows what I do. He knows what I want. He even knows what I want to like shoot my little reels. Like he knows how to do that stuff.
The
So
burst.
when he shows up, he really is working off my script and my plan for a wedding, uh, and I can trust that. Whereas if I just hired someone that happened to be a good photographer, I don't know.
Yeah, I have like heard mixed opinions. Now, that is like a model that I feel very confident in.
Right?
There's a few top wedding photographers who do that, and they have maybe three associates, but
Yeah.
they're not doing four weddings a weekend. Like there's a
Right.
difference when they're hand,
Yep.
selected to be on that team versus like just a roster of creatives.
Right.
Bands do that too. Some of the big wedding bands in the
Yep.
Midwest do that too. I get it, but it's like kind of about that chemistry, like you said. If you shot 100 weddings with your associate, like you guys know exactly what you're doing. And it's
Right.
funny because I run into a lot of photography couples, married or dating or whatever, because they're like, sometimes they also can't rely on someone else too,
Right.
even just for seconding. And so I think that's when it's small, I think it speaks volumes for that. When it gets big, when it gets beyond that,
Yep.
like I personally don't feel comfortable with it and fully endorse it. I can't endorse
Yep.
it because in good conscience, I don't know who the hell they're going to be working with.
Right.
And
And
that's
I think too that I've had people message me, other photographers message me, be like, "Hey, we have a wedding coming up in Milwaukee. This is the first time I've ever talked to them. They're messaging me through Instagram, like, it's coming up in 2 weeks. Would you be willing to shoot it for us?" I'm like, no, I would not. And like literally for that client, like it'd be like getting a second shooter. I think that's a little bit different. Like I've got second shooters at the last minute before for a number of reasons. I try not to, but every once in a while something comes up and you're like, okay, I need to switch up my second shooter and I'm gonna get somebody different. But it's gonna
yeah.
be different than a lead photographer for a wedding that you've never met before, that you're hiring to shoot a client's wedding that's 2 weeks from now. Like why did you do that? Like that's
Why? That's so funny. It's interesting, yeah. Let's talk about what we alluded to earlier with influencers and like I
yeah,
ask most guests like what's a trend that has to go and you said you're over content creation platforms, you're over like get married for real. If you really want that weird arm pose,
yeah,
like do a styled shoot later. I completely agree with that. There's like a weird people pleasing thing going around where everyone, I think in some, not everyone, but some are trying to one up. Some are trying to do what they think is expected of them, what
yeah,
they think is going to go viral on TikTok. And like, I don't know. I can't align with that. And of course, we both have couples who are like that, and that's fine.
right,
But the core of it is not about going viral on TikTok. It's about
right.
your love, right?
Well, and I'm kind of being specific in that like I think that it applies in general too, but specifically like there's a lot of people that consider themselves content creators. I've talked to a number during inquiries where like they're viewing their wedding maybe even as a tax write off because it's like
Yes.
right and like okay, ultimately for me though like I just think I'm not against you creating content on your wedding day. If you're a
Right.
content creator, I'm not against you like having some plan for how you're gonna like talk about this as part of your life. But your wedding, there you can't serve two masters, right? So your wedding is either at the end of the day going to be about you getting married and being this significant
Mhm.
merging of lives together, or it's going to be about how many these different vignettes we want to do. I just think that to get good content is so complicated and how you like pull it together, what you're doing. So again, you can bring a content creator. I'm not talking about that. You can do all that stuff. What I'm talking about is
No, no. Oh, yeah. I wasn't talking about content creator
right,
vendors.
right, right,
Sorry. Okay,
right,
good.
right.
We need to
I'm
clear that up.
what I'm talking about is like the actual person that's the influencer trying to have their wedding sort of be a content thing they're going to release over the course of months.
Yeah.
While also, and it's like okay, I just think I think it cheapens what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like almost trying to white label other people's like
Yeah,
services almost. It's like a little,
yeah,
yeah, no, no, no. I love content creators. I think I
yeah, yeah,
wish
yeah,
content creators came out right before I was getting married, and that's one of my biggest regrets. I didn't hire one.
yeah,
We spent the money on photography and everything, and we really could have at the time. Content creators, this was 2024, content
right.
creators were like a grand. They weren't even, they were very affordable. So I don't know why I didn't do it. I think I just didn't know enough about it. But no,
Yeah,
love them. It's
I've been
more
married
like,
22 years, so like there was no content creator.
no, are you sure? No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So
Although
yeah, but
I did send, I had two Sony Cybershots, which was like a 1.3 megapixel like camera that had the screen that flipped up and you could face back towards you. It's like it was like a
yes,
terrible
a
camera, but people
camcorder
had
kind
them.
of thing.
Yeah,
No?
was that? Say again?
Camcorder?
No, it was actually like just a snapshot camera, right?
Oh,
So like
okay.
I had two of those that gave to just random people that I knew could take photos and sent them around at my wedding to use them. And like those photos, like some of my favorite photos from my wedding day are actually
From that.
on those photos because my photographer was shooting medium format film, so we got like they're good photos. I like them, but like they were like 300 some photos total for the whole wedding day, and they're like almost entirely focused on posed photos because you don't just like swing a medium format film camera around to try to take photos, right? So
Yeah.
and in that sense, we sort of did have content creators a little bit, like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
you had a very organic
old
form of
school.
it.
Yeah, It's
I
great.
love that. Okay, let's talk about film, Super 8, all of that. I feel like even as a wedding planner, I'm a little confused. And it feels like a lot of people are doing film specifically, which then I would say probably 40% of my galleries from last year have a folder that's titled film.
Okay.
Just to break this down for me. I've also seen it's very expensive.
Yeah,
So,
so there's a couple different things. So, uh, there's a variety of different kind of photographers. Like someone like Jose Villa does like I think almost entirely film photos. Like he's
mhm.
taking around old cameras, they're film cameras. The medium format is like a much bigger negative. A 35 millimeter negative is exactly what it says it is. The negative is 35 millimeters, I think, wide,
Okay.
right? A 50 medium format might be 50 millimeters or even 60 millimeters. It's like a much bigger thing, so the resolution's higher, and it changes the way that the light works in the lenses. That's complicated, but it just creates really cool photos if you do it if you use it right. For me
Mhm.
personally, I have a bunch of film cameras that I bought because I thought I love them, and I think at some point I thought I would do like a one roll of film per wedding, or maybe like just as a bonus. And it's for me it has become too complicated to carry them around, so I don't.
Oh,
It's like
mhm.
instead of it being an add-on to a wedding, I actually would have to take some of the coverage the couple has asked me to give, peel it off to do this much slower thing with less deliverables, and it's not
Mm.
part of my brand, so like I don't. They're not expecting it. We're in Milwaukee, I think Autumn. What's her
Silva?
Yeah, Autumn Silva does a great job of doing like a hybrid. I think Lottie might
Yes.
do a hybrid too. So in that situation, what they're with the film folder is probably like the scans of their the film, however much film they shot, and then they probably have the digital part, which is like their digital one.
Yeah, yeah. It's the nostalgia feel.
Mhm.
Nostalgia is in, right? So I think if you're looking for that, it's something important to consider. But I also like I guess couples going into that, if they don't know a ton about it, how do they make the decision if that's something that they feel like for me it would be if I see it and I'm like, I have to have that.
I
But
think what's great about Lottie and Autumn is that if you look at their portfolio, you can't really tell the difference online which are which. Like they've done a great job of blending their digital style to match their films. So if you like their style, I think they're what they're how they're doing it and what they're producing is gonna it's going to be really cohesive kind of throughout.
yeah,
And
you're
so I
saying
think
you
it's
can't tell the difference between their digital and their
I mean, if
film.
you were looking at the prints, I'm sure you could, but I'm saying
Right.
online, like when you their style is so cohesive that like
Yeah.
it is really more a choice about the person. And I think if both of them are fantastic photographers. I really like them.
Mhm.
They're they're
Yeah.
great humans too, right? So I feel like if their brand is like appealing to you, then you would go. And I think the film part is almost a bonus even from them.
Right, right. Like it should probably, unless that's like your number one thing, you probably shouldn't be chasing that too much.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
also some videographers, I worked with a one last year, who did um RLM film and she like fused in family home videos and then just different things. And it was like that's her niche. And she does such a good job with that. So I
So when she
think,
makes like the final video, she pulls that content in to give them
yeah.
like flashback sort of.
Yeah,
I mean, that'd be
it
really
was
cool.
so cool. Yeah, like
Yeah,
showing the cousins playing and now the cousins standing next to each other, right?
that's awesome.
So
I
it
This is
was,
a go
but it's
ahead.
a
Sorry.
specific niche, right? So that's something that it totally fit our mutual couple to like a T. So it was great. But
I've
I
been a
think,
photographer for 12 years, right? So like before that, been married 22 years. So for my wedding, I taught myself how to use Final Cut Pro, which
what
I
is that?
never
Is that a soft like editing?
photo editing it's a video editing software. I'd never
Oh,
used a Mac before, so I taught myself how to use a Mac, how to use Final Cut Pro, and then I brought in all these scans of digital images and I made like a Ken Burns style video.
yeah,
This It took me, like I said, it took me like a week of not sleeping before my wedding, which is really smart to do. But it was a solid hint that I had a future in something that was creative instead of what I was doing at the time. But
yeah,
so I made this video and it ended up being like a 5 minute video of like I said, like Ken Burns, like the photos are kind of moving. It's like because I didn't want to do just like a at the time everyone was doing like PowerPoint presentations and like
oh, that's
it
hysterical.
always crashed and like the projector never works. I'm like I want to get this. I want to nail this. So like uh, it was pretty cool. Later I came to like now if you wanted to do that you could just upload it and AI would probably make the video for you. But at the time I had to actually like hand
Yeah,
code how the photos were moving across the screen and how they were expanding and what they were doing and stuff. But it did teach me a lot about. I mean, I've used a Mac ever since, and
yeah.
uh,
I'm obsessed with my Mac.
I know.
Yes, I
Yeah.
once you change, there's no going back to that too.
Yep.
So, okay. most controversial wedding opinion, which I wholeheartedly agree with. You said too many couples surround themselves with people who are stressful and self-centered on their wedding day.
Yep.
All of us have experienced that. I think
Hmm.
that it's it's that they want to maintain a relationship by bringing that person in. And you and I have both been told who that person is beforehand. And they end up proving themselves. Or, like, as planners, we're like, okay, we're going to sometimes run interference or try. And I'm
Yep.
sure that's the same for you. But um, I had a bride tell me very early on in my career the thing I didn't realize is people are going to make their wedding about themselves.
Themselves.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is such a long time ago, but she was right.
Yep.
And so what are ways, between hiring a good photographer, a good planner, that couples can mitigate some of that? Because sometimes it's the freaking sister and she has to be in the wedding. And, you know, oh God, there's so
Yeah.
many
So
words.
don't you think though? I think if you think, I think this generation is doing a much better. In general, this generation is much more self-aware than previous ones. Although
Yeah.
there's probably like an equal percentage of more self-aware people and also more narcissists, kind of like rising at the same level. So maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of self-aware people. I think your wedding is a great opportunity to do some real hard personal work and to use it as a way of drawing a line in the ground of like, this is our life together. So what are the things that we want to bring with us into this life together? This isn't really about
Yeah.
photography, right? This is just about being a person. But what is
Hmm.
it that we want to bring together with us? And on our wedding day, if our wedding day is kind of a flagstone event that we're putting this kind of monument in the ground of saying, boom, this is a new start for us. We're going in this direction. How do I use my wedding as almost like a way of resetting my boundaries and like reestablishing who are the important people in my life. I know when we got married, we were both young enough that you know we our wedding sort of ended up being almost 700 people, uh,
What? Oh,
almost
I
700,
like thought
almost
I didn't
almost
hear that. That didn't register.
almost 700 people at our wedding, and it was like all of our high school friends, all of our college friends, every cousin we've ever had, all these people that we knew, all the people that worked. It's huge, huge thing, and like we did a super. It was also super cheap, and it was like all these things. Like if we were doing it today, we wouldn't do almost any of it that way. And like I think we felt like we were still early enough in our life that we felt like we owe these people an invitation because they're people that have
Okay.
been in our life versus like who are the actual core people in our life that when we think of the next 50 years, these are people that are going to be in that journey with us and are not just like there because one time we had a field trip together when we were in third grade, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
this is a person that we're mutually contributing to each other's lives. They're part of our relationship sphere. And I'm not saying you have to cut it super short. I'm just saying as a couple, like to think of it as like think of it more as the next step forward versus like your graduation from what you've been in. To a graduation, you invite all the people so far. This is more of like a
This is who we see
we're
moving
we're
forward.
we're thinking forward and where we want to go in life. And so I think
Yeah.
that helps. And I do think though a lot of couples have it's not until they're in their mid 20s or 30s that they start to have those hard conversations with their parents about where, hey, look, I
Oh
love
my
you,
God.
and also,
Hmm.
this was really unhelpful to me. And I just think for a lot of people as they're getting married, that those conversations are coming. We're seeing them because we're outsiders
Mm.
looking in and being like, oh, that was a conversation that we really should have had.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's
I
family
have a really
dynamic.
funny joke. I have a really funny joke I tell all my couples about this. My mom, I love my mom. My mom only had opinions on two things when I was getting married: things I asked her about and things I didn't. Other than that, she had.
That's too good. Oh
That's the
my
only.
God. Well, we've all seen the extremes of that with families, with wedding parties, with whatever,
Yeah,
how crazy it can be. That's funny you
yeah,
say that. My mom was just like, why aren't you having cake? I was like, we're having insomnia cookies. I'm a planner, so she didn't question anything
yeah,
else. It was pretty fantastic, but that's a pretty rare experience as well, especially, given my background, that makes sense. Um, okay. Let's talk about some of the questions I
yeah.
that you had in terms of like what you think would be fun to talk about today. So, how do you we've edged around this a little bit, but how do you balance trends versus like the couple's unique interests? I feel like for you, that is a constant juxtaposition.
Yeah. I think if a couple brings you something, I have a couple different couples will bring you like an idea, and they didn't necessarily get it off your website, so it's like they're getting it because they saw it somewhere that really connected with what they aspire. It's like an
Hmm.
aspirational goal. Like we wish that our photos could be kind of like this. I think you have to do a hard assessment, a little bit of like how you can help them. So a lot of times with couples, I'll be like, here's some venues I think like this an engagement session in particular. Maybe they want to do something a certain way. I'm like, here's some venues I think might help you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, take a look at them and see if they kind of fit what you're thinking. And you also have
Mm-hmm.
to like again figuring out like what is it that really connects with them in that, and whether that trend is coming from the couple. For me, that's kind of my line.
Yeah.
Like if the trend is coming from the couple, then I'm going to do my best to try to honor it as long as it feels like it's within something that feels authentic to me too, right?
Right.
If the trend is coming from a random person that's like, oh, our friend said we should do this, then I'm sort of be like, well, are you saying it or did your friend say it, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't care about your friend. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
let us know what
Yeah.
they
I,
want, right?
I
But
genuinely
if you
don't
want
care.
it, then we'll try it. But I try for my part, like I try to layer in what I think is going to work for the couple first, and then have as a backup my go to options. So
Mhm.
trends to get into like go to kind of cable of photo, like my standard sets of stuff. Like it has to be around for a while. Like it's not just like a happened once. There's a funny one. Like everyone now is shooting these photos with blurry people in it, where like
The
there's a bunch of
walking.
different kinds where sometimes everything is blurry, sometimes it's like the couple's not moving and everybody else is moving. I've been shooting those photos since 2014, I think. So like I'm sure I didn't come up with it, but like I've been shooting them a long time. So like now like everyone's shooting them like, oh, you're just doing this trendy thing. I'm like, well, that's I don't know. I was
That's so
I was
funny.
in the up part of that curve. I was doing it for a long time.
You're like, I've been here.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Another good one you submitted to was like, how does AI play into your industry? I'm going to make a statement and you tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think AI should be a part of any editing of your wedding photos. What do you think?
I think it depends. So like when people talk about AI, they're usually talking about two different things.
Okay, yes, break it down
So
because
they're talking about generative AI, where like that's creating something that wasn't there. So I think a couple might say to you, like, can you put us? This has been true for even when it was when they would say instead of saying AI can use AI, they'd say, can you Photoshop us into Maui for this
true,
photo?
true.
So I typically will say like, I'll give you the photos, and if that's something that you want to do, that's fine. But that's not. I'm not personally gonna or like, you know, it's not going to be included in your package, but if you really want it, we can negotiate like editing after. And because
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not the amount of time it would take to edit like 100 photos, it's not going to work. So generative
right.
AI, I think, has kind of filled that in where now people can be like, we can do anything we want. So I think that for me, I could see some really specific applications where the right couple might want to do that because it's like to have
Yeah.
like some funny thing they're trying to do, and it's like kind of like goofy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, putting a head on a bobblehead doing something funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like as far as like your overall gallery, again, I just think let's ground it in real life. Like I don't want to have a green screen wedding. I want to have
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
actual thing. Let's ground it. I think as far as how the tools are used, like the generative AI is like what everyone says means when they say AI, but actually in the industry, machine learning has been around for a super long
Yes.
time. And machine
Right.
learning is just where like computers are really good at sorting things. They're really good at tasks like that. So I think like I use a program called Aftershoot with editing. It will edit, but you have to like train it on your own presets. Like you have to like upload. I think it's the minimum is like 2,500 photos to it to get it started. But like
Yeah.
I don't use it for editing actually. Like I use it to like set the baseline and stuff, and then I go through and edit from there instead of
And then you
editing from
go and
scratch.
you know what you want to emphasize
Yep,
or the
yep.
color.
I use
Yeah.
it to kind of set a baseline for all my photos, and then I go through and edit them all
Yeah.
manually from there.
I guess misunderstood kind of what that is too, which is just the fun part of the world we're living in right now. Because I think that makes complete sense to me. You created the preset. That's the Roost
Yep,
preset. That is Brandon Brown's preset.
that's right.
But
That's
it's
right.
also like, what about
So like the other thing
outdoor?
people use it for is culling, and
Oh,
I
hmm.
I think again that's machine learning, right? The computer can't see the photo. It what it sees is like a bunch of little pixels that is like
Yeah.
in ones and zeros is interpreting, and it's wizardry because it does do something. But I just have found it to be currently it was slowing. It was actually, I was trying to use it and it for me wasn't working. I know for a lot of other people it does work. Again, I don't personally think there's anything wrong with that if it works for you, as long as you're looking at your gallery before you deliver it and
Like human touch. Yeah.
making sure that the gallery hasn't left out some really great photos because the computer didn't
Couldn't.
didn't see them. So, but if the final product makes the couple happy on the culling thing, like again, those kind of machine learning kind of AI things, I don't they don't bother me as much.
Yeah, no, that's good to know because obviously I didn't know the difference. So
Yeah.
this is why you're here. So then what about like people who outsource their editing? How do you feel about that?
I don't think it's bad. Again, uh, I've at different points I've tried all these things because like editing is the thing that takes up all your life. So
Yeah.
I had an editor for a while. They did a pretty good job. They saved me about a day per wedding.
Mm.
Because I still felt like I had to. And I might just be picky. I'm not sure. Uh, but
Not
I
you.
still felt like when I got it back, I had to send them like cost wise. If I'm shooting 10,000 photos, I'm not going to pay for them to edit all 10,000,
No, no, God,
nor to
no.
pay, nor can I pay for them to cull them. So I had to go through and cull down to the gallery, which is what takes me the most time to get down to the actual final kind of gallery, and then uh, I would get them culled and sent off to them. So then they were only editing the ones I sent them, and like they were doing it based on my preset. Again, I sent them like my preset, and they were doing it that way. But when I got it back, I still felt like I'm still spending another day after I get it back from them, uh,
Yeah. Hmm.
cropping, fine tuning, adding some details and stuff. So like for me, that kind of help just wasn't it wasn't enough for how much it cost me.
Yeah. I don't think I know a lot of photographers that are doing that and
You'd be surprised.
really
You do. You know a
they just
lot that
don't
are
tell
doing that.
you. They just
Yeah.
don't tell you. Because
No, I
I've
mean
had
I
go
think though
ahead.
again, I don't personally if they're going over it and it looks like their brand when they get the photos back,
Yeah.
when you work with an editor, typically you're sending them your preset. They're editing it based on your stipulations and kind of whatever. When you get it back, as long as they've gone through and made sure that it matches their brand, I think that that's not a big deal. And I think that the argument for it is, uh, uh, you want. I spend a lot of time. I was talking about this with actually my wife that I get stressed because what I want to spend my time on is dreaming and thinking about the next couple that's coming along.
Yes.
If I'm super backed up on editing, where I'm like staying up all night trying to finish galleries and get them shipped off, then I'm not spending that same amount of time being really creative with what I'm going to do with the next couple. And I think there's a trade-off, right? So like anything that is a repetitive task that I can outsource that's going to continue to meet expectations, it looks like the reason they booked me. Uh,
Hmm.
that gives me more time to focus on how I can make the next wedding more creative, more special, more thought through is good. And I
Hmm.
think there's a balance there because I don't want someone to like come home from a shoot, stick my family photos in their in their computer. The computer brings them in, calls them, edits them, ships them back to me the same day, and no humans ever looked at it.
Yeah.
Um, but I also, I do think that as a photographer, there's a balance of like how much of my time is being spent administratively versus really being better with my camera.
Yeah, yeah, the creative part, the part you're good at. Like that's the heart of entrepreneur. It's like that's the hard part about being an
Yeah,
entrepreneur, I think, is
yeah.
finding being able to really focus on what you're good at and cutting out some of the BS in between. So you're blowing my mind right now because I had a negative view of that and you just changed my mind. So, and I'm a stubborn person, we know that.
Do
So
do you
that was
use
awesome.
do you use AI at all with like writing help?
I
Yeah.
try not to actually, but I
Yeah.
do occasionally.
So I had to rebuild my this is it's I had to rebuild my website and Squarespace website. So
Oh yeah.
I spent a ton of time in a help forum. I actually was at one point looking at paying someone to help me with one part of it. Like I built it from scratch. I've like rebuilt it 3 different times over the last 12 years. But then I both Claude and ChatGPT, I like Claude better, have
Mm,
all the Squarespace code in their like knowledge base.
hmm.
I mean, I think they license it or something. I don't know how they got it, but they have it all. So I can ask it a question and it spits back, custom code that I would need to insert that thing. So
Wow.
I it you still would have to be pretty clever because if you've never touched a website before, you're not going to just start inserting random code into it and have it work. And like this problem that I was trying to solve, where I was on like Squarespace's, I have 3 different websites. I have enough websites that I'm personally developing that Squarespace has me as a circle member, which is like their internal forum for developers, right? So like I'm in those forums asking questions. No one can solve the question. I start problem solving it with I think Claude or whatever, and eventually, after a week of like hitting my head against the wall, I was able to solve the problem. It works. Everything is great, and uh, you know, again, I feel like in those kind of applications, it's more like a calculator than like
Hmm.
it's just a newer calculator. I do my how like there's like carbon. What is the thing called? Carbon swap, where a company that's way exceeding its emissions thing will like do something good
Oh,
for the environment.
Oh,
This is
yes, 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 yes. Uh-huh.
uh,
Like
uh,
greenwashing almost. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Okay, this is my. I'm a vegetarian, so the water and energy that I'm saving in the generation of meat is what I'm spending on AI.
I love it. No, there you go, right? I know, I know. It's a hot topic for sure.
Yeah, I'm
One of
not,
the
and
last things,
I have all those concerns too. I got in a position where I use it as little as possible, but if it is the tool to solve the problem I'm working on, then I'll use it.
yeah, I'm always just scared that I'm gonna rely on it too much. So then it's only occasionally, and it's always, can you adjust the tone of this email? Because
Yeah,
I am just I could get fired up about stuff and I'm like, well, you can't send that. So,
yeah,
okay. And then let's talk about timelines real quick to finish up.
yeah.
So you and I have built timelines together before.
We have.
I always say I work the closest with the photography team and the venues and more the catering team actually,
Yeah,
because that timing, I don't want to assume. And I think I've gotten to a point where I kind of know what you all are looking for based on what the client submitted to me too. But like that relationship between a planner and a photographer, I don't think could be understated
yeah.
because overstated. Oops. We can edit that out.
It's all good.
But yeah, because we really are the ones keeping kind of a schedule the whole day. Like what do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I
And
mean, I still think like as far as videographers, it depends on like whether the couple views their main content creation is the photographer or the videographer
that's
or the
true.
content creator. Because I think that it has always traditionally been the photographer, but in some weddings, I'm not sure if that's actually true. If they don't view it as
I think it depends.
more of a team, so
Yeah.
that can influence it. But if let's just say for a minute that most weddings I'm at, I spend the most time with a couple of any of the vendors, right? I'm around them for everything that they're doing, and
Yeah.
I'm sneaking them away, and I've communicated with them. So what I found pretty early on in my career is that if I was looking at a couple weddings and it's saying like, wow, I shot better at this wedding, these photos I like them better. Sometimes it's because the couple had a different outfit or something, like the
Mhm.
environment was better, but a lot of times it was because this one had a timeline that worked and these ones didn't. Because they didn't have a
Mm,
timeline that worked, we were supposed to have an hour and a half for photos. Instead, we got 15 minutes. 15 minutes didn't give us enough time to go to the park they wanted to go to, so we had to just shoot them on site at the venue. The lighting wasn't perfect, but we did the best we could because they need those photos and they have 15 minutes to get them, right?
yeah.
So when I was looking at that, I'm like, man, the thing that's sabotaging us is our timeline. That if we don't have a timeline set up where it's functional, it's actually going to work, it has
Yeah.
us in the right place at the right time with the right light and the right backdrop, and it does it in a
Yeah.
way that like it's actually going to get us there at that moment, then like it just makes everything so hard on a wedding day. And people are looking at you and being like, what do we do next? I'm like, well, you planned your whole wedding photo shoot for an outdoor garden and it's raining and you don't have a backup plan and your hotel looks like garbage. Like I don't know what to tell you. That's not my problem, but I have to solve it. So we're gonna
Yeah.
go do this, and right, you do the best you can. But
Yeah.
again,
That
for me, that's
exactly.
like the timeline is where when a couple has a planner, you can always trust that the planner's at least going to have the rest of the day functioning well, not just the photo part. But
Right.
what I have found is like if a couple doesn't have a good timeline, everything is harder.
Yeah, yeah, and it's everything is going to take longer than we
Yep.
think. You have to think about where those offsite, or even if they're on site, we think about Schlitz. It takes a while to get down to the beach or whatever.
Yep.
Like, there's all these different things. It's a beautiful nature center. Like, so
Well, and
you're
you spend
dealing
all
with,
this money on the Schlitz, like that's your venue, right? And
yeah,
you've got literally could spend 3 hours walking around in the Schlitz taking photos. And
I
like you're like,
know.
well, I don't
So,
want to spend 3 hours of my wedding day taking photos. I'm like, okay, you don't have to, but you could, and they'd be awesome, right?
yeah,
So
right.
the venue unlocks for you this entire these trails, the paths, the birds, the pond, the tower, the lakefront. You've got all these different kinds of trees. You've got wild grass. Like this,
Mhm.
all these cool opportunities.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Let's do it. Let's have
Yeah,
some.
I know, right? No, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, do you have any I guess okay, wait, hold on. We have to talk about Spike the
Oh
parrot
yeah,
quick because I ask everyone on the show like what is the most creative and coolest thing you've done because I just think we always have funny like getting I got the fun answer I was looking for. So just
yeah,
tell everyone about that and this
yeah.
will give
So
the perfect flavor of Brandon.
I got pulled into a fancy magazine styled shoot because the photographer fell through or something. But I got pulled in like maybe somewhere between a couple days and a week before the style shoot. So everybody else had been on part of a team. There'd been lots of communication. So they send me the style board. They explain to me what's going to happen. I'm like, I love it all. We need a parrot. I'm like, I literally love it all, but we really do need a parrot. Can we get a parrot? And they're like, everyone just kind of looked at me like, what? I'm like, I really want a parrot in this shoot. Like, I really, really want it. And I think it would be awesome. I think it pulls out the color of everything. It makes the two people, the models that we have that are wearing these dresses, I think they're both going to just look fantastic with this bird if we could get
Oh
one.
my God.
So they ended up getting me this small little green parrot, and it is some I they're just iconic. They look
Oh my
next
God. I
level
want to
because
see them.
it's so unexpected. Like a cat might have also worked. Just something that like totally makes it like that sort of like magazine level of arrogance and like condescension that is only possible when you have a model looking at you with this like fierce look and then she's got a little bird on her shoulder. So
Yeah, three little birds,
yep,
little Bob Marley. So,
yep,
oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
That's funny. Well, do you have any parting thoughts, pieces of advice to leave with anyone who's listening to the podcast today?
Yeah, so I think marriage is awesome. It's fun. It's good stuff. I recommend it. And I think that like I love working with partnerships with people that that I get along with and I feel like have the same kind of work ethic about the couple. That's what I appreciate about you is that and as we've worked together, we've engaged in hard problem solving that whenever possible we want to keep it away from the couple so they don't think about it, but I think you and I had some experience where we had to get engaged and really figure out how to solve some things that were hard, and that you want a team of people that are going to do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I will put your Instagram handle on the show notes, but is there any other information? You mentioned three websites. So like should people be looking
No,
outside of your regular
no,
website
no.
or anything else?
It's all roostmke.com.
Okay, I love it. And you shoot Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, anywhere, right?
Yeah, so that's my main focus. That's my home area. I've also shot weddings in Colorado, California, uh,
Love it.
Jamaica. I mean Iowa. So like
I love it. Okay.
all the hot places.
Well, that's good to know. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on Wedding BFF. Thank you, Brandon, for all of your time. This was super fun. And again, you changed my mind on things, which doesn't happen often. So I hope everyone found this super valuable and thank you for listening.
All right, thank you.
Okay, hold on. Let me just stop this.